The fight over Georgia's 16 electoral votes is intensifying. This week alone, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will launch a bus tour there, their first public event after the DNC, hoping to build on all that momentum. But they're looking outside the Democratic-friendly confines of Atlanta and its suburbs, and to an unlikely group, evangelicals. Joining us now, Presbyterian minister and board member of Evangelicals for Harris, Reverend Lee R. Scott. It's good to see you. I think you're from another battleground state, Pennsylvania. So tell me, what's the argument to evangelicals about why they should vote for Kamala Harris?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, I'm a Pennsylvanian, and I think that there's a lot of an argument for it. So Evangelicals for Harris is really a community of evangelicals who have felt at various points a feeling of political homelessness over the last several years. I think there's tremendous opportunity for Harris and Walz to give an opportunity for evangelicals to think differently.
So tell me what they should think differently about, because I think when we think about politics and we think about evangelicals, maybe they get put in a box, right? Part of that box is being against abortion, something that we know Kamala Harris has been on the other side of. She has really run a large part of her campaign on reproductive rights. A lot of things about, for example, school choice. There's a separation there. So how do you think that the homeless population of evangelicals will respond to Kamala Harris specifically?
You know, I think that's a great question. And I think that too often we have pigeonholed evangelicals as being single issue voters when there's really a wide swath of issues that are really fundamentally important to them. Everything from safety and prevention of violence to ensuring that children have access to the tools they need to succeed. I think that what we're seeing with Evangelicals for Harris is a group of folks who are looking for the opportunity to be seen as more than just single issue voters.
One of the things we saw at the DNC, and clearly it was very focused on by the people who are planning it, but it also is really what their lives are. It's family, right? When you saw the relationship between Kamala Harris and her husband, when you saw her stepchildren, who clearly are extremely close to her and talked about her, when you see Governor Walz and you see the way he has put his children front and center. And I wonder if you think that's maybe potentially part of the appeal. There is so much about not just their individual families, but the relationship between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, the relationship between Kamala Harris and the Walzes, which is fairly new.
It's easy to look at them solely as the politicians they are and forget that these are real people. These are folks who are neighbors to other neighbors. These are family members to other family members. These are, in both cases, folks who desire to be in relationship with those that they are leading, but also just their family members. I think that that leads to a lot of the policies that have broad, frankly, evangelical appeal. For example, the child tax credit and the expansion of that Vice President Harris wishes to do. You know, I can speak really only to my own reasons for being a part of this. My theological convictions are shaped in part from the Dutch theologian and statesman Abraham Kuyper. And he said there's not a square inch in the whole domain of human existence over which Christ, who's sovereign, doesn't declare mine. So if all those square inches of our lives are, for evangelicals, the domain of Jesus, then we need to think and examine our civic engagement through that lens of Scripture. We need to think Christianly about how we participate civically and politically. Speaking for myself, I joined because I grew tired of seeing the meanness, bigotry, and frankly, recreational cruelty conflated with the worldly witness of our faith to a watching world. And the opportunity that the Harris and Walz campaign has here is to provide a different pathway forward. I think that the model that we have here in Evangelicals for Harris, with a wide diversity of viewpoints, diversity of backgrounds, is tremendous and is representative of what we're seeing for an opportunity for the electorate.
The last number I saw, Reverend, was about 200,000 evangelicals had signed up with your organization saying that they were willing to vote for Kamala Harris. I wonder if you have an updated number for us and if you think that number has the possibility to expand in any significant way.
I don't have an updated number on that, but I am amazed with the reception that we've had. This is really providing a forum for folks who are searching for something different. The number that we really do want to highlight, though, too, is we're not out here asking for money. We're asking for people to serve their communities and neighborhoods. We've been blown away that 45,000 hours of community service and neighborhood service have been committed to by the folks who've signed up with us. We think that, what unites us as a group here is believing Jesus is Lord and no politician is, and finding common ground across difference. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity for evangelicals to really address community service and neighborhood service. And if that's the legacy coming out of this election, it's going to break down the dividing walls that have made it really impossible for folks to think differently.
Reverend Lee R. Scott, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on the program.